What if I told you that the smallest actions you take today could shape the biggest victories of your future? It sounds almost too simple to believe, but the truth is, success is not the result of a single giant leap. It is built quietly, step by step, in the tiny, often overlooked choices we make every single day. The world celebrates big moments, but what really creates those moments is the invisible foundation of small, consistent actions stacked over time. Think about the power of a drop of water. One drop on its own seems meaningless, weak, even insignificant. But let that drop fall consistently over time, and it has the power to carve valleys, shape rocks, and change landscapes. That's what consistency does to a human life. The smallest repeated actions, reading a few pages each day, saving a little money regularly, practicing a skill for just an hour daily, transform into results that appear monumental to everyone else, even though you know it was simply persistence. The problem is, most people underestimate the power of the small. They ignore it. They look for shortcuts, for hacks, for sudden breakthroughs, not realizing that true breakthroughs come from the slow, steady grind. They start a new habit, but because they don't see results instantly, they quit. They go to the gym for 2 weeks and expect transformation. They practice a craft for a month and expect mastery. They study for a season and expect genius. When it doesn't happen quickly, they give up, not realizing they were on the verge of compounding growth. Consistency is like planting seeds. At first, nothing seems to happen. You water, you wait, you protect the soil, and yet the ground looks empty. Doubt creeps in. You wonder if the seed will ever grow. But the one who keeps nurturing the seed, even when there is no visible progress, eventually sees the breakthrough. The roots are growing underground where no one can see them, and then one day, the plant bursts forth, stronger because of the foundation that was built in silence. That is the law of small steps. They build in the unseen before they explode in the visible. One of the greatest tragedies is that people abandon their journey during this silent phase. They stop watering because they think the seed is dead. They stop practicing because progress is too slow. They stop showing up because no one is applauding. But the truth is, greatness is never built in the spotlight. It is built in the shadows. It is forged in the repetitive, daily actions that seem boring, mundane, even invisible. It is these very actions that eventually create the extraordinary. Imagine someone learning to play an instrument. At first, every note sounds wrong, every practice feels frustrating. The temptation to quit is strong because progress feels invisible. But the person who practices daily, even for just 30 minutes, slowly builds skill. Day by day, the fingers move more smoothly, the sounds become clearer, and the music begins to take shape. To the world, one day this person will seem like a natural talent. But in reality, it was not talent. It was consistency, small steps taken every single day. The same principle applies to every area of life. Read 10 pages of a book daily, and in a year you'll have finished more than a dozen books. Practice gratitude every morning, and over time, your entire outlook on life changes. Spend 1 hour daily on a new skill, and within years, you'll reach levels most people only dream of. None of these things feel dramatic in the moment, but added up over time, they create transformation. Small steps don't just add up, they multiply through compounding. Consistency also builds habits, and habits shape identity. When you consistently choose certain actions, those actions become part of who you are. You don't just read occasionally, you become a reader. You don't just exercise, you become fit. You don't just practice discipline, you become disciplined. This is the true magic of consistency. It doesn't just change what you do, it changes who you are. But let's not pretend it's easy. The reason small steps feel difficult is because they require patience. We live in a world that craves instant gratification. We want results now. We want transformation without waiting. That's why so many people give up. They confuse slow progress with no progress. They fail to understand that greatness is always delayed. The fruits of consistency are not seen in days, they are seen in years. If you can train yourself to love the process, to keep walking even when results are invisible, you will eventually experience the explosion of growth that others will call luck. Consistency also requires trust in the process, trust in yourself, and trust in the power of time. Time is the greatest multiplier of effort. A single workout won't change your body. A single study session won't make you brilliant. A single investment won't make you wealthy, but repeated daily effort, given time, will. You have to trust that what feels small now will eventually become big. Without that trust, you will quit before the miracle happens. And here's something people don't talk about. Small steps are not glamorous. They are not exciting, they often feel boring. Waking up early, practicing daily, repeating the same drills, saving small amounts, sticking to a routine. It doesn't give the thrill of instant results. That's why most people chase big, dramatic gestures instead of quiet, consistent ones. But ask yourself, what has ever lasted that wasn't built slowly? Castles are not built in a day. Bridges are not built in a week. Masterpieces are not painted in one sitting. All of life's great creations are the result of consistency. Think about the compound effect. If you improve yourself by just 1% each day, by the end of the year, you won't be 365% better. You will be 37 times better. That is the exponential power of consistency. The problem is, most people never reach that point because 1% feels too small, too insignificant. They want 100% improvement instantly, and when it doesn't happen, they walk away. But the wise know that small is powerful because small is sustainable, and what is sustainable grows unstoppable. Small steps also protect you from overwhelm. When you look at the mountain of your dreams, it feels impossible to climb. But if you focus only on the next step, and then the next, suddenly the mountain doesn't feel so intimidating. Consistency breaks down impossibility into achievable daily actions. Every day you climb a little higher, and before you know it, you look back and realize how far you've come. Another truth about small steps is that they build resilience. Every day you keep a commitment to yourself, you strengthen your inner character. Every time you show up, even when it's inconvenient, you teach yourself that you can be trusted. That self-trust creates confidence, because if you know you can rely on yourself to take small steps daily, you stop fearing the size of the journey. You already know you will get there because you won't quit. Even failure is transformed through consistency. One failure is not the end if you keep showing up. Miss one day, and it doesn't matter. Just return the next day. Consistency is not about perfection, it is about persistence. The secret is not in never falling, but in never staying down. The moment you restart, you reclaim your path. That's why consistency is so powerful. It forgives mistakes as long as you keep moving. And let's not ignore this. The world notices. People may not see your daily grind, but eventually, your results will speak louder than words. When you stay consistent, your work builds a reputation. You become known not for what you planned to do, but for what you repeatedly did. Consistency earns respect because it proves reliability, and reliability is one of the rarest and most valuable traits in a world full of quitters. Ask yourself, what is one small step you can commit to daily? Not a massive change, not an impossible plan, but one simple action repeated every day without fail. Because that one step will multiply. That one step will shape your character. That one step will separate you from the masses who start but never finish. And over time, those small daily victories will build a life that looks extraordinary from the outside, even though you know it was only built by simple, ordinary steps taken consistently. Do you know why most people fail at achieving their dreams? It's not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, and not even because they lack resources. The real reason is that they wait to feel ready. They wait for inspiration. They wait for motivation. They tell themselves, I'll start tomorrow when I feel like it, or I'll be consistent when the timing is perfect, and yet that tomorrow never comes. Motivation is fleeting. It is like a spark, it burns bright for a moment, and then fades into darkness. Discipline, on the other hand, is the fire that keeps burning, whether or not you feel like feeding it. That is why the people who achieve greatness are not those who act only when they feel motivated, but those who have trained themselves to act even when they feel nothing at all. Motivation is emotional. It comes from excitement, from external triggers, from inspiration, and it has its place. It can get you started. It can light a fire in your heart. It can create a rush of energy. But motivation cannot carry you through the long, hard, and often boring middle of the journey. Discipline is what steps in when motivation disappears. Discipline is what makes you wake up early when your body screams to sleep longer. Discipline is what keeps you studying when distractions call you. Discipline is what pushes you to the gym when you'd rather relax. It is the quiet strength that does not need feelings, only decisions. The truth is, if you rely only on motivation, you will never be consistent because motivation is unreliable. There will be days you feel powerful, days you feel unstoppable, days you feel like you can conquer the world. But there will also be days you feel tired, uninspired, unmotivated, and weak. The winners are those who keep going regardless of the day, regardless of the feeling. They understand that discipline is not about how you feel, it's about what you decide to do. Consider the person who says, "I'll work out when I feel motivated." They might exercise once or twice, then stop for weeks, waiting for the feeling to return. Contrast that with the person who says, "I will exercise at 7 a.m. every morning, no matter what." That person shows up even when it rains, even when they are tired, even when they don't feel like it. Who do you think will see results in a year? It is obvious, but still most people cling to motivation because it feels good. They forget that feelings are temporary, but habits created by discipline are permanent. Discipline is the bridge between your goals and your achievements. Everyone has goals, everyone has dreams, but only those with discipline walk across that bridge. Discipline takes your vision and turns it into daily action. Without it, your goals remain fantasies. With it, even the most impossible, seeming dreams become inevitable. There is another truth about discipline. It is not something you are born with, it is something you train. No one comes into this world with unshakable discipline. It is built like a muscle, through daily practice. Every time you make yourself follow through on a commitment, even when you don't feel like it, you strengthen that muscle. Every time you push past excuses and do the work anyway, you reinforce the pattern. Over time, discipline becomes who you are, and once it is part of your identity, consistency becomes effortless. The challenge is that the modern world does not encourage discipline. We live in a society that glorifies comfort, instant gratification, and shortcuts. Everything is designed to make life easier, not stronger. You can get food in minutes without effort, entertainment instantly without patience, information instantly without searching. And while convenience has its advantages, it has also weakened the willpower of many. That's why discipline feels rare. It goes against the current of modern culture. But precisely because it is rare, it is valuable. The few who master discipline separate themselves from the many who are controlled by their feelings. Discipline is not glamorous. It doesn't always give you excitement. In fact, it often feels boring. Waking up early every day, practicing the same skills repeatedly, sticking to routines, saying no to distractions. None of it sounds thrilling, yet it is these boring, repetitive acts of discipline that build extraordinary lives. People see the stage, the success, the achievement, and they call it talent. But what they don't see is the years of disciplined action behind the scenes, the countless days when there was no applause, no recognition, no motivation, just discipline. You see, motivation gets you to start, but discipline keeps you going. Motivation gives you energy, but discipline gives you endurance. Motivation makes you excited, but discipline makes you consistent. Without discipline, motivation dies before results appear. With discipline, even without motivation, results will eventually come, and when they do, they fuel even more motivation. It becomes a cycle, but the foundation of that cycle is always discipline. Another important truth is that discipline creates freedom. People often think of discipline as restrictive, as chains, as something that limits life. But the opposite is true. Discipline frees you. Think about it. The person who has no discipline with money becomes a slave to debt. The person with no discipline in health becomes a prisoner of their own body. The person with no discipline in time becomes a servant to procrastination. But the disciplined person, the one who controls their habits, has the freedom to live the life they want, to use time how they choose, to enjoy health, wealth, and purpose. Discipline may feel hard in the moment, but it gives you a life that is easier in the long run. Lack of discipline may feel easy now, but it creates a life that is harder later. The real test of discipline comes not on the good days, but on the bad ones. Anyone can show up when they feel inspired. Anyone can work hard when everything is going right. But when the day is heavy, when your energy is low, when everything in you says quit, that is when discipline speaks. That is when you discover what you are truly made of. And here's the thing, every time you overcome that moment, every time you refuse to listen to excuses, you grow stronger. Those moments become the bricks with which resilience is built. Discipline is also about making choices before the moment arrives. If you wait until you're tempted to decide, you will most likely give in. But if you decide in advance, I will wake up at 6 every day, I will read for 30 minutes daily, I will save this amount every month, then the decision is already made. Discipline takes away the debate in your head. It silences the negotiation with laziness. You don't ask yourself if you feel like it. You simply do it because it's who you are. There will always be distractions. There will always be temptations. There will always be reasons to skip the work. Discipline is the voice that cuts through all of that. Discipline doesn't care about excuses. Discipline doesn't wait for ideal conditions. Discipline doesn't need applause. Discipline simply says, do it anyway. And here's the secret: the more disciplined you become, the less you actually need motivation. Because once habits are built, they carry you forward automatically. Just like brushing your teeth is no longer a choice, but a habit, discipline creates automatic actions that no longer require a debate. At first, it is hard. At first, you need to push yourself. But over time, discipline becomes your natural rhythm, and that is when consistency becomes unstoppable. So, stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting for motivation to strike like lightning. Start training your discipline like a muscle, every single day. Do the work when you don't feel like it. Show up when it's inconvenient. Push through when it's uncomfortable. Because in the end, motivation is temporary, but discipline is permanent. And it is discipline, not motivation, that creates lifelong success. Have you ever quit something simply because you didn't see the results fast enough? This is one of the biggest reasons why people fail to achieve their dreams. We live in a world that demands quick fixes and instant gratification. We want to see the reward immediately after putting in the effort. We expect the scale to move after one workout, the bank account to grow after one attempt, the skill to appear after one practice session, or the recognition to come after one day of trying. But the truth is, progress rarely shows up in the beginning. Progress hides. It stays invisible, and because we can't see it, we assume it isn't happening. That assumption kills more dreams than failure ever could. The beginning of any journey is the hardest because it feels like nothing is working. You put in effort, you sacrifice time, you push yourself, and still the results seem non-existent. This is the stage where most people give up. They convince themselves it's not worth it. They think they're not cut out for it. They believe others have some advantage they don't. But what they don't realize is that underneath the surface, change is happening. Just because you can't see the seed breaking open underground, doesn't mean it isn't growing. Just because you can't see the roots forming, doesn't mean there isn't progress. Progress is often invisible in the early stages, because it is working silently to build a foundation strong enough to carry the weight of what is coming. Think about how water shapes stone. One drop doesn't change anything. 10 drops don't change much either, but after thousands of drops, after years of patience, the water carves through rock. The process is so slow, so invisible at first, that if you judge the results too early, you'd think nothing was happening. That is how life works. Every small effort, repeated consistently, makes an invisible impact that only reveals itself later. The problem is most people stop before they reach the stage where the impact becomes visible. They stop after the first 100 drops, not realizing that the 1,000th drop is the one that cracks the stone. Progress tests your patience. It asks you to believe in results you cannot yet see. It requires faith in the unseen, trust in the process, and courage to continue without proof. That is why consistency is so difficult. It asks you to keep moving when your eyes tell you there is no progress. It asks you to trust that the hours, the sweat, the sacrifice, the repetition are building something, even if you don't yet know what. This stage separates the ordinary from the extraordinary. The ordinary person quits because they want quick results. The extraordinary person continues because they know invisible progress is still progress. The invisible stage is where character is built. When you are grinding in silence, when no one is clapping, when no one is noticing, when no evidence of success exists, that is when your true strength is forged. If you can endure that, you can endure anything, because eventually the invisible becomes visible. Eventually the progress that was hiding reveals itself. Suddenly, people look at you and say, "How did you do it so quickly? How did you become successful overnight?" They see the explosion, not the slow burn. They see the breakthrough, not the years of consistency. They call it luck, but it was never luck. It was invisible progress finally showing its face. Every journey has a tipping point, a moment when all the effort accumulates and spills over into visible success. That tipping point feels magical, but it is simply the natural result of compounded effort. You can't predict when it will happen, and that uncertainty is why so many people quit too soon. Imagine digging for treasure, stopping just 3 feet before striking gold. Imagine training for years, quitting right before your breakthrough performance. Imagine building skills, giving up just before someone finally recognizes your talent. This happens every day. People abandon their dreams because they can't see the invisible progress that is quietly preparing their breakthrough. The invisible stage is also the humbling stage. It strips you of illusions. It teaches you patience, discipline, and humility. It shows you that success isn't instant, that growth isn't glamorous, that achievement takes time. It teaches you to fall in love with the process instead of obsessing over the outcome. Because if you can love the process when there are no results, you will naturally keep going long enough to reach the results. The process becomes your anchor, keeping you steady when there is no external reward. It's easy to be excited in the beginning, the first week of working out, the first day of studying, the first attempt at a new project. Your energy is high, your motivation is strong. But when weeks pass and nothing seems to change, that's when reality tests you. Will you quit or will you continue? This is where the invisible stage weeds out the uncommitted. Most people cannot endure working without visible payoff. They want recognition now, results now, change now. But those who endure the invisible stage understand that patience is the price of progress. Even in nature, progress is invisible before it is unstoppable. Bamboo, for example, spends years growing roots underground before it ever shoots above the surface. For years, nothing seems to happen. Then, almost suddenly, it grows rapidly, towering higher than expected. But that sudden growth was only possible because of the invisible years of root building. Your journey is the same. Your invisible work is not wasted. It is laying roots so deep that when you finally grow, nothing can knock you down. The invisible stage is also when doubt attacks hardest. Your mind whispers that you're wasting time. It tells you that you're not good enough. It tempts you with distractions that promise quick pleasure instead of long-term success. That is why you need discipline in this stage more than ever. Discipline allows you to keep going without proof. Discipline reminds you that just because you can't see the results doesn't mean the effort is pointless. Discipline pushes you forward when your emotions pull you backward. The breakthrough always looks sudden to the outside world, but it never is. Success is built in silence, behind closed doors, in the invisible hours when no one is watching. It's built in the late nights of work, the early mornings of practice, the repetitions that no one praises, the sacrifices no one applauds. When success finally arrives, people only see the visible tip of the iceberg. They don't see the massive foundation beneath the surface. But you will know. You will know that every invisible step was necessary. Every hidden effort was worth it. When progress becomes unstoppable, it feels as if momentum carries you. Opportunities open, recognition comes, results accelerate, but none of it would exist without the invisible stage. That is why patience is a superpower. Patience combined with consistency is unbeatable. If you simply refuse to quit, if you simply refuse to stop even when nothing is visible, you guarantee that eventually progress will show. It may take longer than you hoped, but it will come. And when it does, it will come bigger and faster than you ever imagined. You must learn to measure progress differently during the invisible stage. Don't look only for big results. Look for small signs of growth, more discipline, better focus, stronger habits, improved skills. These are invisible victories that compound over time. Celebrate them, even if they don't look like success to others. Every small improvement is proof that you're moving forward, even if the world doesn't see it yet. The truth is, you're always planting seeds. Every action you take is a seed, and just like seeds in nature, they don't sprout the next day. They take time, nurturing, and patience. If you give up before they grow, you'll never taste the harvest. But if you keep watering them with consistency, one day the harvest will come, and it will be more abundant than you expected. So the next time you feel like quitting because you don't see progress, remember that progress is rarely visible at first. The roots grow underground before the tree appears. The water carves the stone drop by drop before the mark is noticeable. The bamboo spends years building roots before rising to the sky. And your journey works the same way. Invisible does not mean absent. Invisible means preparation. Invisible means foundation. Invisible means unstoppable growth is on its way. When it comes, it will shock you. It will shock the people around you. It will look like you transformed overnight, but deep down you will know the truth. You will know that what looked invisible for so long was actually the most important part of your success. The invisible stage is the price of greatness, and those willing to pay it are the ones who rise to the top.